On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, I talk with Kate Plummer about working in a family business and how to work with millennials. Hey there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I'm your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today is a rock star, and I really appreciate her taking the time, Kate Plummer, Vice President of Clearmount. Kate, thanks so much for joining me.
No problem. I'm really excited about it.
Cool deal. So, one of the things I know about you is you have gone to a bunch of different conferences, and you've told me that you've attended the WLC, and I love going to conferences and learning from other people. What value or lessons do you think that you have gotten from that one?
So that's an interesting one, because I think I'm truly spoiled when it comes to conferences, because my main ones that I do are WLC, SKUCon, and then which is the Canadian equivalent of WLC, so the Women's Empowerment event. Okay. And the community that comes with this, they're rock solid. Like, we've met at SKUCon a few times, and it's just been this, like, you go in being like, okay, I have to start the year, I have to do this, and then you come out being like, bring it on, I'm ready, like, let's go. And that's what I find with WLC is, like, it's this amazing community of women where you come in and they all are supportive, and it sounds so cliche to be like, they're wonderful, supportive, cliched women, but I can contribute a ton of my growth to the people that I meet at this conference and the lessons that I learn from this conference. Like, our conversation started about exclusive events, and I really, I feel like I took you to task and may have changed your mind on that, but I feel this industry is really inclusive, but at the same time, there is still that old boys club in there, and there's still some misogyny. Well, there's definitely misogyny out there, but what's great about this is you can go in and you say, I'm having trouble being taken seriously for X, or I need to do Y. Like, what have you done? And you'll get, you'll get people at my level where I'm like, I still feel new to the industry despite working for a family business, but you have people come in and go, like Joanne Lance and Mary Jo, and like these fabulous leaders going, I'm helping you, come under my wing, I'll bring you into this. And and what's great about it is, like, I went for like 2 years, and then they're like, we want you on the work group. And now after a couple of years, I'm the co-chair of it. And the number one reason why people come is networking. Like, they list networking before education. And I think it's because of the community that comes from this, and being able to go to events and get that networking to see everyone where you're on the same level and you're emotionally, like, open to learn just changes the atmosphere. And I think different events like that, they have this atmosphere of, like, openness, and it can be openness to learning, it can be openness to people, it can be openness to connections and building your business, not just, I'm going to sit here, I'm going to learn, and then I'm going to come back and tell my boss what I learned. It's like, I can't come back with orders, I come back with connections, I come back with renewed energy for what's to come. So that's what I love about it.
No, I think that makes a ton of sense. And you had said, like, hey, this is cliche, but I always say a lot of the times things are cliche because they're true, right? Like, the idea that people are supportive and they help you grow. I mean, yeah, maybe it's cliche, but it's cliche because that's what those events are for. And so that's exciting to me to hear that. And I think networking being the top goal makes total sense. I think just understanding what the goals are, that's important. And so that's awesome. Good stuff. So many people will tell you that working with family is tough or impossible or whatever, right? But you've worked in a family business. I have worked with family, but what's been your experience?
I always called this my temporary job until about 8 years in.
Okay.
So this is just, I'm not staying in the family business. I'm not doing this. I'm going to go and get a real job. I'm just helping you, and then I'm out of here. And then at 9 years, I was like, I think I can stay here. I think this is going to be good for me. So Yeah, so my intention was never to come into this industry. Like I thought, okay, I'm going to go and do my own thing. I'm going to learn different things. This is what I'm going to figure out. And I just kind of got in and I was like, I love this. I love the creativity that comes with this job. I love the connections, like the network, like again, the networking, the people in this industry are so much fun to work with. And we do fun things. Like, you know, I was raised in this. I tell people that I've been doing this for over 30 years now, and but I've just been in the office for 10. And that's so true. Is like, you know, I was raised on snap bracelets and like fanny packs and all the cool like 80s swag that you could possibly get. But but a family business, like it's hard. Like it's great. I've always said it's great because your bosses know exactly what you're capable of, and they're not going to accept you to be, you know, just good at their job. They're going to be, you know, you can do this. Like, you're not this dumb or you're not this lazy. Like, you're going to do it. But the bad part is like finding that line between home and work is really difficult. And I know my parents struggled with that in that they had 6 o'clock is the cutoff. Like 6 o'clock on Friday, you can have 30 minutes to talk about work and then you're done. And I have it with my partner because he's in the industry. And I say, like, I've pushed it to 7 o'clock, but no work questions, no work talk after 7 o'clock because home needs to be home. And, but I've also experienced the really bad part of, you know, being part of a family business is that my mom passed away earlier this year and it devastated, like it, you know, there's a great quote from a comedian, Patton Oswalt, was she didn't leave a hole, she left a crater. And that's exactly what's happened with my mom. Is like, you know, not just home that I'm emotional, it's work. And so it's kind of like picking up everything that's come from that. So when you depend so much, when you're so tightly bound, it's even harder when you lose like one of your pillars. And so I think my past few months have just been like getting another pillar in there and like getting the support up. So it's great. You know, it's fabulous to have your family, to be connected. Although my mom did fire me a couple times and it lasted for like 15 minutes until I was like, I've got work to do. I'll be back. But at the same time, like she knew I wasn't going to quit and she knew what I was capable of. But, you know, when you have that is like, you have to have succession planning in, you have to have like there's a lot more work to it than just sort of, this is just a job and you walk away. It's a tight emotional connection for everything.
Wow. Yeah, I really appreciate you being willing to share that. That's got to be challenging. And so, but on the other hand, I think that's the kind of stuff that you go, gosh, I'm glad I had that experience too.
Yeah. Like it's the mentorship, like everyone always says like, oh, I wish I had a mentor. And I was like, well, I've got my mom and like, she was a rock star and with her gone, she always told me, she was like, you don't really appreciate me. And like, damn, I appreciate her now.
Hate it that she's right one last time.
But it's, you know, like everyone always talks about, you know, they work really hard to find like a strong female mentor. And I was like, I've got that and everyone else in the industry. So it's like, you know, I had the star up there and so it's great. And again, they know exactly what you're capable of. They know exactly what you can do and they push you like, and they, you know what, and it was great too, is that they gave me so much more independence in what I could do. And I don't know if you've found this with your family business, is that you trust their choices. Like they trust that when I bring them a project or an opportunity that I say, let me run with this. And they're like, go for it. And so, so I like that vote of confidence has just like, I know it's changed the way I work, how I interact with everyone. So it's been great that way.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you sharing me. It's almost hard to move on to the third question because that was really awesome. So good stuff. And thanks for sharing that. Because again, as a person who works with family, my mother's just retiring. I work with my wife. And of course, in other businesses, I've hired daughters and stuff. And so I appreciate your insight on that because that's really cool. So one of the ways that you and I met each other is under the M word, right? The Millennials. And I think you know this about me. I struggle with this entire discussion. I struggle with the entire millennial discussion. I really do. I think it's wildly overdone. Each generation has been maligned by the older generation because, I just feel like I don't know if it's social media or what, that all of a sudden we're hearing about it more. I just think we need to deal with each person as humans. Because I think like the idea that you're the same as every other millennial is just wild bullshit, and like that drives me crazy that we generalize like that. And so, I think we need to deal with each other as humans. And so, what's your take? Am I way off base? Should I, you tell me?
No, we're on the same page here. Like I've always thought of millennial as that dirty word, and to be honest, like anytime we talk about conference topics or I'd see like, we need to reach out to the millennials, I was like,
Yeah.
I could use multiple bad words here, but I felt like it wasn't taken as, here are your strengths. Here's it was never communicated like, these are the strengths of the millennials. This is what we can do to grow it. It was always like, they're lazy and they don't focus and they try and multitask and they don't. And it was just kind of like, that's not who I feel I am. That's not how I feel my friends, my like industry connections are. I feel like we just come at it with a different viewpoint. And that's not a bad thing because you and we come at it from a different viewpoint. Like my sister and I come at it from a different viewpoint. Like we all come at it from a different viewpoint. And I think what needs to happen is that you can't just judge them like they're millennials or use them in a big word. Like the millennials are a buying market because that's not everyone is at the same point in their career. Not everyone's at the same point of just authority or access or anything else. So you have to look at it as like, this is the next market coming up and it's not a bad thing. Like it's just, we have to change. And like, I know you've talked about this several times is if our attitude is that millennials are a bad thing, I think it prevents us from changing and adapting to not just millennials as a generation, but to technology. It's to sort of say like, well, we have to get a website because millennials are on a website. Like that's not it. It's like everyone is using a website, not just this generation or the generation that's coming after it. Like it's, totally. You have to look at them as being, they're not a bad thing. They're smart, they're energized, they're involved.
Yeah.
But so is your generation and so is the generation before you. And like,
honestly, what I would say is there's crappy people in every generation, right? Like, and for whatever reason, the millennials have been villainized about it. I tell people and business leaders all the time, if you have crappy millennials, it's your fault. Like you hired bad people. Like that's not, I have great millennials. The end.
You probably have first too. And it's just like, so it's, what frustrates me is when the dialogue is that they're a bad thing and they're not. They're just the next thing. And if you're going to be upset about the next thing, you can't just be upset about the kids who are in that next thing. Like, even though sometimes like I'm on the cusp of millennial, I'm like, those kids today, but but it's not that. It's that they're coming with the next thing.
Yeah, I really like that. I love the idea that they're not a bad thing, they're the next thing. That's well said. Okay, so you've answered my 3 questions. I give everybody a chance to ask me one question. Do you have one for me?
I do. So, as we mentioned, my role is kind of changing here at the company. And so management is now a larger part of my job. So you've had the ebb and the flow of your company and you have your brewery too, which I have to say, I'm a craft beer fan. I'm going to make my way down there and try some one day. So my question is about management. Like, how do you, what's your best tip for managing people, especially when you're growing or when you're new or when you're trying something different? Like, what's your management tip? Like, what is your management tip to avoid?
Yeah, no. Great question. And so one of the things that I really try to do is to probably over communicate and do a lot of communication one-on-one. And candidly, it kind of goes back to the last question I asked you. I try to meet people where they are. So many times I feel like we just got to, and you're trying to be efficient, right? And I do this where you send out one email and here's what it is and blah, blah, blah. But I think what I've been trying to do over the last couple of years and trying to be more intentional about it because I've been pulled in a lot of directions is to really take the time to say, okay, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I'm going to meet with this person and I'll have my assistant. Let's get everybody on the calendar, whether it's on the phone or whatever. But I want to just ask them where they're at and what I can do to help them with what they're doing. Maya Angelou said people don't care as much. They'll care what you know once they know how much you care. And I've been trying desperately to get better at letting them know that I want to be a resource for them, not the other way around. And I think if you spend time doing that, then people will take direction from you better. So is that fair?
I love that. That's perfect. That's a great attitude, and that's a great sort of exercise to do as well. Because again, when you talk to people, you figure out that they're not just a millennial. So
That's right. That's totally right. Well, cool. Kate, thanks so much for taking the time. I really appreciate you doing this, and I'm excited that we got a chance to talk, and hopefully we'll see each other either at SKUCon or SKU Camp. I'm not invited to any of the other events you go to, so whatever.
You're missing out. It's fun.
Just teasing.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely see each other soon. I'm excited about it.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for being on, and we'll have to do it again, okay?
Fabulous. Love it.
Cool. Well, that wraps up this Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.